येन तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा गदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। हे कृष्णा कर्ण सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते। सप्तकांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रियै। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवसादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So chapter 13, I should blow a conch shell once we finish. Kshetra, Kshetragna, Vibhaga, Yoga, nature, the enjoyer and the consciousness. Please try to listen with undivided attention. If whatever else you're doing, if you can halt. Because once you will hear once, then it will be easy to go back and read on your own. You still have to read all these chapters on your own. So this is what we did yesterday, Bhakti Yoga, chapter 12, Bhakti over impersonalism. What is better? Arjuna asks Krishna, whose worship is better? The one who is worshipping the Brahman feature or the one who worships your personal form? Krishna answers, the devotional service to personal form is better. And then we studied the progressive stages of devotion. So Bhakti Yoga also has a variety. Okay, if you Ananya Bhakti, if you can't do Ananya Bhakti, then do Sadhana Bhakti. If you can't do Sadhana Bhakti, then do Nishkam Karma Yoga. If you can't do Nishkam Karma Yoga, then do Sakam Karma. If you can't do that, then cultivate knowledge, Jnana. But better than knowledge is Dhyana. Better than Dhyana is renunciation of fruits of action. And then we studied the qualities that endear one to Krishna, that Krishna enjoys or wants to see in his devotees. So let's offer our obeisances to Shri Shri Radha Govinda. We need their mercy today more than any other day to understand Bhagavad Gita, now that we are towards the end. So this is what we are going to do today. The chapter is easy actually because it's only question answer, question answer, question answer. Arjuna asks Krishna 6 questions and Krishna answers. The rest of the chapter is all answers to all those 6 questions. So Arjuna asks, what is Kshetra or field of activity? What is Kshetragna or the knower of field of activities? And what is Jnana and knowledge? What is Jnanam, the object of knowledge? Question number 4. What is Prakriti, material nature? What is Purusha, the enjoyer or Krishna? What is the relationship between Prakriti and Purusha? Okay, and then vision of knowledge. So I'll bring about this slide again at the end. So the question is that last third of Bhagavad Gita is more about knowledge. Knowledge revisited in all aspects, knowledge of from Sankhya and knowledge about one's relationship with Krishna. We already did the middle third as bhakti, pure bhakti. Devotional service to Krishna is the best. So the question is, if bhakti is the culmination, then why is jnana presented in the last 6 chapters? Already he said, right, devotional service to me is the best thing one can ever do in their any lifetime. A living entity's best business is to serve Krishna. But why is he giving knowledge again? If he already gave the end of knowledge, and the end of knowledge is to surrender to Krishna, but why knowledge again? In truth, the entire Bhagavad Gita is bhakti. The first 6 chapters discuss how to achieve bhakti through work. If you remember, we did chapter 3 and chapter 5 Karma Yoga, chapter 4 Jnana Yoga, chapter 6 Ashtanga Yoga. So all this, towards the end of each chapter, Krishna was re-emphasizing bhakti is best. But the last 6 chapters describe how to achieve it through knowledge. In the middle 6 discuss bhakti itself. Okay, so also in the 12th chapter, Krishna explained how he personally delivers his devotees from birth and death. Mrityu Sansara Sagarat. So the last 6 chapters provide the philosophical knowledge necessary to extricate oneself from the material world. So Jnana has its use in assisting our detachment from Maya and our attachment to Krishna. We need to understand what we are doing. Hence, when we use knowledge as a means to attain devotion, it becomes a part of bhakti. So it's not different. So these are the questions which Arjuna asked to Krishna. He says, Krishna, what is Prakriti? Krishna answers, Prakriti means material nature. He asked Krishna, what is Purusha? Who is Purusha? Enjoyer of the Prakriti. And Krishna says in chapter 5, verse 29, Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. So Bhoktaram, Bhokta means enjoyer. He says, I am the only enjoyer. Only. Krishna is the only enjoyer. So in that way, everything is Prakriti. Because Krishna is supposed to be the only enjoyer of everything all across all universes, all the activities done by every living entity. In that way, Krishna is the only enjoyer or Purusha, and everybody else is Prakriti. Because we are supposed to be enjoyed by Krishna. My worship, my work, everything has to be for Krishna's satisfaction. So Kshetra, what is Kshetra? Arjuna asks. Krishna answers, Kshetra is this body, Shariram. What is Kshetragna? Or the knower of the body? Krishna answers, observer in the body. There are two observers, two knowers. One is a soul, another is a super soul. What is Jnanam? What is Jnana? What is knowledge? Krishna answers, understanding the relation between Kshetra and Kshetragna, the body, the field, and the observer in the body, or the knower of the body. And what is Jnanam? Jnanam means goal of knowledge, Paramatma. To know Krishna is the object, goal. So Arjuna said, Oh my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field, and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and end of knowledge. So these are the 6 questions. Prakriti, Purusha, field is Kshetra, knower of the field is Kshetragna, question number 4. Question number 5, knowledge. Question number 6, Jnanam, end of knowledge. The blessed Lord then said, This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field. And one who knows this body is called as the knower of the field. The body is the field through which the living entity or a soul is acting and moving around in this world. And the knower is the knower of the body is called a Kshetragna. I will explain. Kshetragnam cha api mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Kshetra kshetragnor jnanam yat taj jnanam matam mama. O sign of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies. To understand this body and its owner is called knowledge. That is my opinion. So, Krishna is saying that this body in which a living entity is living, all bodies, not just human body, all bodies, cat body, dog body, insect body, or a body of a tree, or a body of a snake, or my body, your body, is Kshetra, is a field through which the soul is working. And what is Kshetragna? The one who knows the body. And there are two knowers. One is soul, another is super soul. And what is knowledge? The knowledge is to know the field, and the knower of the field is the knowledge. So these are our 3 levels of consciousness described in Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd canto. 3 levels. One is awake, and another is called sleep, which is like a light sleep where dreaming happens, and deep sleep. So there are 3 states of consciousness of the body: gross and subtle, mind and gross body and the subtle body. So in all these 3 states of being, there are always 2 knowers. One is a soul and another is a super soul. When I am awake, like right now we are awake, hopefully, then the soul and the super soul are acting. When I'm sleeping and dreaming, that time also the soul and super soul are acting. And when the deep sleep is happening, when there is no dream, then also soul and super soul are acting. So the field through which I am working, the body and the knower of the body, the 2 knowers, and the relationship between the 2, the body and the knower of the body is what is explained. It's not so complicated. I'll give an example. For example, there is a farming field. Okay, now this the farming field is called Kshetra. This is a corollary example. And then there is one knower of this field, which is a farmer. This particular farmer is aware of its field, right? Okay, this particular farmer is aware of only about its own field. But then there is another knower which knows about all the fields. What is that knower? Sun. Sun knows all the farming fields across the globe at the same time, right? So the field is Kshetra, and one knower is the farmer, and the other knower or the super knower is the sun. Like that, our bodies compared to the field. One knower of the field is the soul. What is the soul is only aware of its own body, For example, I'm not aware of any other body right now. Anybody. I'm just aware of my own body, that I'm awake and I'm talking or whatever, right? So that my consciousness or awareness is only limited to my own body. But then there is a super soul inside my body, Paramatma, which is present in all the bodies, and that Paramatma is aware of all the bodies at the same time. So that is the difference between the two knowers. One knower is soul, which is only aware of its own body, and the other knower is super soul or Paramatma, which is aware of all the bodies at the same time, as much as the sun is aware of all the fields across the globe. Okay, it has to be very clear. Kshetra is the field. One knower of the field or one Kshetragna is the soul who is aware of its own body, and the other Kshetragna is the super soul who is aware of all the bodies at the same time. That's what Krishna is saying. Now, Krishna is going to give reference. Krishna also gives evidence based spirituality. That knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of the activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. So Krishna is God. Krishna made all this, but he still follows the standard of speaking. And what is the standard of speaking? Give reference. So he's also giving reference of various sages in various Vedic writings. And Prabhupada explains in the purport. Prabhupada gives a big purport to fifth verse. That first knower is Krishna, and from Krishna the other knower is Vyasdev. So Vyasdev's writings, the Vedic writings, and so many other names he quotes of the scholarly devotees who are giving references and reaffirming, yes, this is correct, this is correct. So this is the way of acquiring knowledge. Not like my mind is telling me this is correct, so this is correct. No, we have to come out of this mind business. Okay, enough lifetimes have passed in this life, in this mind business. So it is specially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. So Vedanta Sutra means summary of the Vedas. Bhagavatam is considered as one of the Vedanta Sutras because it's summary of all the Vedic literature. With all reasoning as to cause and effect. This may take little time to understand cause and effect. So the cause is always present in the effect. For example, if there is a child, now the child is the effect. What was the cause of the child? The father and the mother, right? The father and mother are always present in the child. So cause is always present in the effect. That means that the Krishna is always present in his creation, but at the same time he separates as well. You don't have to get confused. So there are different levels of consciousness that Srila Prabhupada explains from Tantra Upanishad. I think he quotes. Different levels of consciousness are there in different living entities. And depending on one's level of consciousness, one realizes God's presence, or Krishna's presence. The lowest level of consciousness is called as Annamaya Kosha. If you know about all these koshas, you can write to me in the chat and I will be happy to read. So Annamaya Kosha is like lowest, like somebody is convinced of the presence of God in the form of food grain. Like a small, like an animal or small child. A small child knows nothing but just a grain, like or food or milk. So Annamaya, and beyond that is Pranamaya Kosha. Pranamaya Kosha means appreciating the presence of Krishna in one's life in the form of life. That, oh, I am living, I am not dead because Krishna has given me this duration of life. So that's somebody's writing. Thank you. So that's Pranamaya Kosha, that in the form of life. But beyond that is Manumaya or Jnanamaya Kosha, where one becomes curious and inquires and tries to cultivate knowledge. That am I really dependent on my body to live, or do I have an existence beyond that? Or am I really dependent on the grains, or can I exist without the grains, without the food? So one becomes curious. So Jnanamaya. Vijnanamaya Kosha is one becomes understands that one is not the body and one is also not the mind. So one is is becoming devotee. So Krishna has three features, right? Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat means eternity, Chit means knowledge, and Ananda means blissful. So when one comes to the Vijnanamaya Kosha, when one is realized, not just theoretically understanding, realize that I'm not the body, I am not the mind. I am not, none of these. This is not defining my real existence. Then one comes to the understanding of two potencies out of three. What are the two potencies? One understands Sat, means eternal, means understands that I am eternal. I am not going to die. I'm not going to take birth because I'm not the part of this body is dying, body is taking birth. Sat, and the other is Chit, Ananda. I'm sorry, Chit means knowledge. So one out of Sat, Chit, and Ananda, one is able to realize two features, Sat and Chit, when one comes to Vijnanamaya Kosha. Still, it is not very permanent because Mayavadi ends here. Mayavad philosophy ends over here. So, but it is still not permanent. Why? Because the real nature of the soul is to be joyful. So that is called as Anandamaya Kosha, where one realizes the third potency also, which is Ananda. So Sat and Chit and Ananda. So these are the three levels of consciousness one goes through. But Krishna consciousness directly brings us to the last thing, Anandamaya Kosha. You don't have to go through this hierarchy. Okay, now Krishna is going to describe each element. Now, is it understood what is Kshetra, what is Kshetragna, and what is Jnanam? Only three things are explained. Kshetra is, what is Kshetra? You can write to me very quickly. What is Kshetra? That Kshetra is the body or the field of activity or body. And who is Kshetragnam and how many Kshetragnas are there? Or the knower of the body. How many? Two. Very nice. What are they? Soul and super soul. So yes. And then what is knowledge? What is definition of knowledge according to Krishna? What is Jnanam? My admins can answer too. Jnanam means knowing the relationship between the Kshetra and Kshetragna. Now Krishna is going to elaborate on each and every aspect. So he's going to talk about the constituent of or ingredients of Kshetra. That what is the Kshetra or the body made of. Okay, this is what this verse is describing, where the soul is now engaged. The five great elements, which is earth, water, fire, air, ether, or Panch Mahabhut. So five great elements, five. Okay, then false ego, sixth element. Intelligence, seventh element. The unmanifested, eighth element. The 10 senses become 18. So five working senses and five knowledge acquiring senses makes 10 senses. Mind, 19th. And the five sense objects. So, eyes need an object to see, nose needs an object to smell, tongue needs an object to taste, ear needs an object to hear, hands need an object to touch. So these five sense objects. These 24 elements make up the body, both gross and subtle. We have two bodies, gross and subtle. Gross body is made of mind, is made of fire, air, earth, water, ether. And the subtle body is made of mind, intelligence, and ego. It is actually very deep science. So if you read the Bhagavad, you'll understand. Anyway, this is Sankhya philosophy. Only a glimpse is given over here. But third canto Srimad Bhagavatam, it is described in a lot detail. That how these five elements come about. And actually, the five great elements are nothing but a subtle manifestation of the false ego. And false ego is a function of tamasa, which is also made of five things. Anyway, I don't want to go in detail, but Sankhya philosophy explains. So Krishna is giving a hint that the body with which we are working right now, which includes this gross body and also mind, intelligence, and false ego, is made up of nothing but these 24 things. Five great elements: false ego, intelligence, unmanifested. Unmanifested is three modes of material nature which are not manifested yet: mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. 10 senses. So we have 10 senses. Five are for acquiring knowledge. So eyes is horses. We acquire knowledge by seeing, by smelling, by hearing, by touching, and by tasting. And five senses for working: vocal cords, hands, legs, organs of evacuation, and organs of reproduction. So those are the 5 working senses that Krishna has given to the body. And then there are 5 sense objects. And in between senses and sense object, there is a mind. Okay, now the effects of these 24 elements: desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms and convictions, they're all considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interaction. So the last things, we have a desire, we hate something, we become happy with something, we are distressed with something, or we collect all these things in our consciousness, or the life symptoms. They're all nothing but a mixture of these 24 things. Actually, it is true. Let's say that I like a sari and I have a desire, then my happiness is associated with that purchase. That unless and until I have that particular sari, my life is useless. My whole meditation is going on that particular thing. Okay. So what is the sari made of? It's made of these great elements: fire, air, earth, water, fire, air, ether. Right? It came about from that. So my desire and my happiness in that particular situation is nothing but dependent on one of the 24 elements. So we are not going beyond that. That is why we are just going between Annamaya and Pranamaya Kosha. We are not even coming to the level of Jnanamaya. So very, very intricate. And we think that we are advancing in our life. People, if you sit with someone who is not in Krishna consciousness, and you ask them that how do you look at your life, then they will come up with a huge theory that, oh, my life was full of struggles and I did so much struggle in my life, and after struggling I am a successful person today. So their definition of success is fighting battles. I fought these battles and now I'm successful. I was living in a hut and now I'm living in a palace. But they do not understand that they have not moved even an inch from these 24 elements. Nothing. Not even an inch has been moved from out of these 24 elements, still encaged. Okay, it's a very, very menial knowledge. And Krishna consciousness, I have seen that philosophy or Krishna consciousness or spiritualism is something that everybody thinks have a birthright to comment on. That is why people become so proud across the world. It's not just in one place of the world. Across the world, everybody becomes very philosophically inclined and wants to talk without references. And they're talking nothing but their mind, and mind is also in one of the 24 elements. So we have to be very, very careful when we are seriously seeking some Krishna consciousness. It needs to come from a proper place, from a proper bona fide guru who can lift us from these 24 elements. Otherwise we are hopping between happiness, distress, desire, all these things, and we are thinking we are successful. Now Krishna has explained the prison, right? Kshetra is a prison for the body. Now he's going to explain the qualities by which one can come out of this prison. I think these are 20 qualities. So Aman Vittam, Adam Vitvam, Ahimsa Kshantir Arjavam, Acharya Upasanam Saucham, Sthiryam, Atma Vinigraha, India Arteshu Vairagyam, Ahankara Evacha, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, Dukkha Dosha Nidarshanam, Asaktir Anabhi Vishvanga Anabhi Vishvangaha, Putra Dara Grihadishu, Nityam Cha Samachittatvam, Ishtani Ishtanishto papastishu mai cha ananya yogena bhaktir avyabhicharini vivikta desha sevit vam aratir jana samsadi adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam etaj jnana iti proktam ajnana yada ato anyatha. He says all these things are knowledge and everything else beyond this is nothing but ignorance. Ajnana yato ato anyatha. Everything else. This is declaration by Krishna. What are these? Aman Vittam, humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with wife, children, home, wife, with children, wife, home, and the rest. Even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events. Constant and unalloyed devotion to me. Aspiring to live in a solitary place. Detachment from the general mass of people. Accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these are declared to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. Not like I'm a 12th grade pass and I am knowledgeable and an illiterate person is in ignorance. No, this is knowledge. Okay, so what is humility? Aman Vittam. Humility means that not to be anxious to have satisfaction of being honored. Okay, doing a disinterested obligated duty, not like I am going to be honored. My Guru Maharaj says that if somebody is giving class on Krishna consciousness, and the consciousness behind giving the class is that I will be honored, people will adore me, that I am saying this, then that class itself is contaminated. It's very, very contaminated because there is no Krishna. The consciousness is self satisfaction or sense gratification. Subtle. It's subtle. It's very, very subtle, but it's there. One has to be very, very careful. That's why we do invocation prayers before we chant. That I am a fool. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jnananjan Shalakara. I am a fool. I was born into extreme darkness. Om Agyana Timirandasya. Extreme darkness. There are 5 levels of ignorance. And this Timirandasya, extreme darkness. But you, Jnananjana Shalakaya, you have given me the vision of knowledge. That is obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, not like I am so knowledgeable. Pridelessness, understanding that you're not the body. Thus, honor and dishonor are the same. Because honor and dishonor are only for the body or the mind. It has nothing to do with the soul. Non-violence, ahimsa. Okay, if I ask around in this class, what is ahimsa? Most common answer I'll get is not to eat non-vegetarian food. Yeah, that's one level of ahimsa, but Shastras go even more deep. And what is it? That if one is not practicing Krishna consciousness and trying to cultivate spiritual knowledge, then they are also doing hinsa to their existence. Yeah, they are, because they are going to die. Another death. We have to do something with which we become deathless. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. Yes, so-called pious people of the world, paying their taxes on time, raising their children, or doing very honest work in the office, are cultivating ahimsa. Yes, yes, because one is not elevating oneself and others to spiritual knowledge. Tolerance, practice to bear insult and dishonor from others, very hard. Simplicity, so straightforward that you can disclose the truth even to an enemy. Accepting a spiritual master is essential. Without spiritual master, no way. One cannot reach Krishna directly. Cleanliness, 2 types. External is bathing and internal is chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Steadiness, determined to make progress in spiritual life. So utsaha, dharya, with utsaha or with enthusiasm comes dharya, which is patience. Not like, okay, I am chanting Hare Krishna today, tomorrow I'm seeing Krishna. No. One has to be very, very determined. Self-control. Reject anything unfavorable to spiritual advancement. Control the senses. One should be able to say, no, I don't want this. Thank you very much for offering, but it is against the cultivation of my Krishna consciousness. Thank you. One has to be able to say like that, not in a rude manner, but one should be very firm in one's conviction. And other person should also be able to understand what to say and what not to say to a devotee. Realization of sense objects, not to cater unnecessary demands, gratified only to keep body fit for devotional service. Absence of false ego, reject I am this body of mine and accept that I am Krishna's servant. This is what Krishna wants. Perception of evil of birth, death, old age, and disease. One has to hear it again and again. When we talk about death, especially in families, oh, it's very inauspicious. At least in my family, that used to be the talk. Don't talk about inauspicious things. We're not dying today. Death is inauspicious. Don't talk. Are in material world, we are putting death at the back. In spiritual life, death comes in the front. Every day we talk about it in Krishna consciousness. Every day Srila Prabhupada wants us to talk about it. Why? Because we have to become convinced. that I am embarrassed by these things. I don't want to grow old. I am growing old. I don't want to die. I am going to die. I don't want to get diseased, and I will get diseased because I'm being embarrassed. I don't want, but I still get it. That's embarrassment. Detachment, be ready to sacrifice everything for Krishna. No entanglement with wife, children, family. Somebody asked from few classes ago that, oh, so serving parents is better or leaving the house is better? What is better? Well, both are better. If one can, this is the verdict. If one can practice, one should practice. If one can practice their Krishna consciousness in the middle of the family, that's fine. No need to take sannyas also, Prabhupada has said. If someone's family life is very, very congenial and cordial to cultivate Krishna consciousness, live there and cultivate. If somebody is not, then leave it. That is why before that is detachment. Even-mindedness, not elated or distressed at material gain or loss by performing unbreakable devotional service. And unalloyed devotional service is Ananya Bhakti, and aspiring to live in a solitary place. Not like I'm going to go and um, perform in the middle of the Hollywood and I will become a pure devotee of Krishna. One can, but it takes time, not in the beginning. So those are the qualities which can extricate oneself, which can help one to extricate oneself from this kshetra. Because at the end, the bottom line is I need to be able to go to Krishna at any cost. So I shall now explain the knowable or jnanam, right? Object of knowledge, knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Brahman, the spirit beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So knowable, first he explained Kshetra, now he's explaining Kshetragna. Kshetragna, there are two knowers of the body. So what are the two knowers? You can type to me. Is everyone awake? What are the two knowers of the body?
The soul and the super soul, Madhuri.
Very nice. The soul and the super soul. So Krishna is now going to explain the soul and super soul. He first explained the body and now he's going to explain the soul. The soul is subordinate, beginningless. So Brahman over here means the spirit beginningless and subordinate to me. Okay, and one which lies beyond cause and effect of this material world. The soul is not a thing of this world. It's not a thing. So he's going to give that. And then he's also going to give knowledge about the super soul. Sarvendriya guna abhasham, sarvendriya vivarjitam, asaktam, sarvabhrikshaiva, nirguna guna bhoktarcha. The super soul is the original source of all senses. Yet he is without senses. Another apparent contradiction. Just hear it out. Krishna is full of all these apparent contradictions. Super soul is the original source of all senses. Yet he is without senses. Sarv Indriya Vivarjitam means he is without senses. He is unattached. Asaktam. Although he is the maintainer of all living beings. Sarva Brihat Chaiva. Asaktam means he is unattached, but Sarva Brihat Chaiva means he is the maintainer of everyone. Nirgunam, he transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time he is the master of the modes of material nature. Nirguna Guna Bhoktarcha. Guna means modes of nature. So he is beyond Nirguna, but he is Nirguna Bhoktarcha, but at the same time is the master of the modes. So how is it? All these apparent contradictions, three of them are described. One is that he is without senses, but he is the source of all senses. Number two, he is unattached, but he is maintainer. Number three, he transcends the modes of nature, but he is the master. So how do we say that? Mayavadi philosophers take shelter of this verse and comment that see Krishna is without senses. See Krishna is is not is not even mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. So God is energy, because no senses, no modes acting for them, it becomes energy. But no, Prabhupada explains very clearly that Krishna's senses are not material like our senses. My senses are material. My eyes or my nose or my tongue, my ears, my hands are material. They're one of the 24 elements are making it up. Krishna's senses are spiritual. Angani, yasya, sakalendriya, vritti manti, pashyanti, panti, kalayanti chiram jaganti. Ananda chinmaya rasat ujjvala vigrahasya govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Powerful prayer by Brahma to Krishna. Angani yasya. Krishna's senses is one sense can do the work of another senses. Like my eyes can only see. I cannot smell or eat through my eyes. But Krishna's eyes can see, can eat, can smell, can talk, everything. Because it's spirit. Krishna's senses are spiritual. Okay, we cannot lock Krishna up by imagining or by concocting. No, he's unattached. He's maintained. He's made this material world for us, but he's somewhere else. He's in Goloka Vrindavan. But at the same time, he's there in Paramatma feature also. He transcends the modes of nature. That should be easy to understand. I gave example of modes of nature are shackling us. They make us work, force us to work. The mode of goodness forces a person to become very pious, to become knowledgeable, which is better than passion and ignorance. Passion forces a person to work and believe that unless and until I work, I'm not going to be able to earn. And if I'm not able to earn, then I will not be able to maintain my body and I will die. That's mode of passion. Mode of ignorance is I am not the mind. I don't have to do anything. I'm the body and I just need to sleep or intoxicate myself. So these modes are acting on us, but Krishna is not in any one of them. Krishna is Adhukshaja. So that's the second knower, super soul. Okay, the supreme truth exists both internally and externally, in the moving and non-moving. He's beyond the power of the material senses. To see or to know, although far, far away, he's also near to all. Okay, if we were lacking in any other apparent contradiction, more in your plate. He exists both internally and externally. We discussed this. How does he exist internally and externally? Yes, my admins, or if someone from the audience want to raise their hand. How does Krishna exist internally and externally? Very quickly. Yeah.
Sorry, you told us about the Achinta Bheda Bheda. He's simultaneously there and simultaneously present somewhere else, Mataji.
Yes, so internally he's present as Paramatma. Externally he says in 8th chapter, you want to see me? Yes, see me. Bhumi Apalo Anayor Vayur Man Mano Buddhi Revacha. Externally see. You see earth, you see that as part of me. You see sun and moon, you look at them as energy of eyes of my universal form. So externally we can see Krishna, we can find Krishna like that. And internally he's sitting with us as Paramatma. He's beyond the power of material senses. I cannot see Krishna with these eyes. Not possible. I have to see Krishna with the help of what sense are you going to use to see Krishna? Yes. What sense are you going to use to see Krishna? I think it's a heavy chapter. So, okay, some people are writing heart, mind, devotion, sixth sense, vision, know and know and know, know, ears, hear about Krishna, tongue, talk, chant, vibrate Hare Krishna Mahamantra and taste Krishna Prasadam. Okay, ears and tongue. Sevan mukhe hi jivadu. Swayam eva spurate adha. So Sevan mukhe hi jivadu. Prabhupada said Krishna consciousness is revolutionary. Why? Because we are teaching people how to realize God by using tongue. So tongue. Chant Hare Krishna, taste Krishna Prasadam. Use the ears to hear about Krishna. Then Krishna will become manifested. Krishna has to reveal himself. Okay, he's far, far away. He's sitting in Goloka Vrindavan, but he's very, very near to us. Why? Because he's right there in my heart. I am not realizing, but he's there. So the supreme truth exists both. I'm repeating the same, internally and externally, moving and non-moving. He's beyond the power of material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he's also near to all. This is Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj, his mother approached Krishna when Ashwatthama released Brahmastra to kill Parikshit Maharaj inside the womb. So she said, she felt that she's having a miscarriage. So she prayed to Krishna, Krishna save my baby. So Krishna entered the womb. So Krishna was present in the heart of Parikshit Maharaj as super soul, but he entered the womb as outside also. So Parikshit Maharaj saw him. That is why his name is Parikshit. Parikshit means curious. So he was always curious. Are you the person who I saw inside my mother's womb? Are you the one? Are you the one? Are you the one? Whole life you were searching. Okay, so far we discussed Kshetra. We discussed Kshetra means field, means body in which the soul is sitting. And we also discussed the constituents or ingredients of the Kshetra, 24 elements. We also discussed the qualities that can help one to get out of or extricate oneself from this soul, from the body. And we also discussed that there are two knowers, Kshetragnam. One is soul, another is super soul. Okay, soul is limited to one's own body or one's own Kshetra. Super soul is all pervading. Now we are going to talk about Jnanam, Prakriti, Purusha, and Jnanam. So he is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. So Krishna is knowledge himself. Krishna is also the object of knowledge and Krishna is also sitting in my heart. Everything at the same time. Knowing Krishna means cultivating knowledge, and knowing Krishna also means knowing one's own self. And knowing Krishna means my position is very secure. I'm achieving the goal. Thus, the field of activities, the body, the knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. It is a little difficult to understand. So much Sankhya philosophy is discussed in Bhagavad Gita, this chapter. But it should be easy now. You should at least have some fundamental that the body, the two knowers. So the body is compared to the fruit, the tree. Okay, the tree is compared to the body, and on that there are two birds sitting or two knowers. One bird is very busy in eating the fruits, and the other bird is patiently waiting that when will this bird turn towards me. So this body is compared to the tree, and the fruit-eating bird is compared to the soul, and the other bird which is patiently waiting for the soul to turn towards it is super soul. Now he's going to talk about Prakriti and Purusha. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. Material nature, but Prakriti, we cannot trace out when this material nature was formed. It's beginningless. Krishna himself is saying, so am I, in my constitutional position as a soul, I am also beginningless. Anadir karma phale, beginningless. But their transformation, but we see the soul is going through so many species. 84 million species are there inside the water, then come on the surface, become animal which is creeping on the ground, and become an animal which has two legs, and become an animal which is flying in the sky, slowly come to four-leg stage, and then slowly come to the human form. So these species are there, but how can we say beginningless? We can trace out. No, you see this spark inside? That's soul. So the body is effect of transformation of the material nature. The soul is contaminating itself by desires. And whatever I'm desiring, the nature is providing me a body corresponding to that desire. But in my constitutional position, I am beginningless. Okay, so karya karana kartatve hetu prakritir uchyate purusha sukha dukkhanam bhoktitve hetur uchyate. Nature is said to be the cause of all material activities and effects, whereas a living entity is the cause of various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. This is the answer to a commonly asked question: why do bad things happen to good people? Why do bad things happen to good people? Refer to 13th chapter 21st verse. So the nature, we are blaming the nature to give us the bad deeds, right? But the nature is only giving us the effect of our own action. Krishna is saying his nature is said to be the cause of all material activities and effect, whereas the living entity is the cause of various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. For example, this particular living entity is eating anything and everything. So is associating with one particular mode. But we have to take accountability that this particular person is eating anything and everything. We cannot say, oh, Krishna is telling him to eat anything and everything. No, Krishna is not telling. Krishna has given everything, and we have to make a choice, because we have to make a choice to go to Krishna. Krishna is not going to force his presence on anybody. Okay, so Krishna, this person is eating anything and everything. We have to take accountability. Now the Paramatma is observing in the heart that they're eating anything and everything. So this Paramatma sees that this particular person still has a desire to enjoy something other than Krishna, or other than to be with Krishna. Okay, then the Paramatma directs the material nature that give them a body of a hog where they can eat anything and everything, because that is what their inner enjoyment is. We cannot fake Krishna. Krishna is aware of our psychological nature. What is it that I enjoy the most when I am alone? Not when I'm sitting in the public, or I'm trying to put a mask of being a very show bottle spiritualist. No, no, no. What I am really, if this is what I'm doing, then I am responsible for what I get next. I have to take the accountability. So that is what it means, that the nature is giving the body of a hog. But why? Because I wanted it to be like that. I wanted to enjoy the world like that. So we have to take accountability. Okay? Purusha prakriti stho hi bhunkte prakriti jan gunan karanam gunasangasya ashad asad janma yonishu. Some people ask why there are so many species of life, why there are so many animals. If Krishna knows that the best thing to do is to go back to him, why is he creating so many varieties of living entities? Why? The answer is now here. The living entity in the material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil amongst various species. So why there are so many species? Because we are associating with different modes of nature. If I am associating with mode of ignorance, then animal life or plant life is ready. I have to take accountability in the human form of life, what I am getting associating myself with. And depending on that association, I am going to get another body. I am very, very responsible for what is going to happen to me. It's not difficult. Please don't think it's difficult, because let's say there's a small child. Acha, the small child doesn't want to go to school, does not want to study. All they want to do is all day play video games, because this coronavirus, this lockdown, you can't go out or watch some show in the TV, or just play around. But the mother says, you can't waste your time like this. You need to be able to cultivate some knowledge. You have to work, do some school work. Even if there is no school today, you still have to do. Why is mother saying like that? Because she's aware that if a child is not going to do this, then the future is not very bright, right? So like that, if I am not cultivating Krishna consciousness right now, then my future is not very bright. So even though it doesn't matter what I say, that is a relationship between the nature and the living entity. That is it. Nature caters to the demand of the living entity. What does super soul do? Upadrishta anumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwara paramatmiti cha api yukto dehi asmin purusha para. Yet in this body there is another, our transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the super soul. So Krishna is also existing. So Krishna or Paramatma's role is Upadrishta Anumanta. Upadrishta means overseas, and Anumanta means permits. So let's say that somebody wants to steal, right, something in somebody's house. So okay, Krishna is observing that this person has this inclination. So overseer, he's seeing, and Krishna gives permission. Okay, go steal. Makes arrangement. Krishna does not assume somebody's reaction. He does not cause anyone to act. Neither does he get affected by the reaction. He's just acting as overseer and permitter, because he has given this free will. He has given the intelligence not to steal also. But this particular person is using it to steal, then that is their headache. Okay, so we are responsible for what happens to us in a very big deal. Unless and until we go to Krishna and want to change this course of action. Manu, understand this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. So Krishna has given some benediction, Shruti Phala. It's not easy to understand, but if one who understands, Krishna is saying you're sure to get liberation, regardless of their present position, just by understanding. Forget about practicing. So such a powerful thing. That super soul is perceived by some through meditation, by some through cultivation of knowledge, and some through working without fruitive desire. So Krishna is aware that different people have different kinds of inclinations to understand him, and Krishna is open to everyone. He's not saying I'm only available to a yogi who's meditating in the forest. No, he's saying I'm available. What do you want me to be available as? Are you ready? You want to make me available in your life in Shastras? Okay, here you go. You want to meditate? Okay, I am telling you I can be the object of your meditation. You want to work without me? Okay. To work without fruitive desire, not work without me. Sorry. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person, hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. This is very powerful. I give example every class, the same example, but it works. Let's say that you want to go to the temple and hear Srimad Bhagavatam class. Okay, but you don't want to go alone. So you want to go with a friend. And that friend wants to go for a movie. But you want to go to this Srimad Bhagavatam class really bad. So there's this discussion that, and then a friend can talk to a friend like this, that you are my friend. It is your duty to cater to my demands. So you're coming with me to the temple. No matter you like it or you doesn't like it, it does not matter. You're coming. Friend can talk like this. So this disinterested friend follows you to the temple just because of the friendship between the two of you. Okay, now you go. That person is also sitting with you in the temple and Bhagavatam class is going on. Somehow, that other friend of yours become interested. Oh, this is nice. Shrimad Bhagavatam is nice. They did not come to hear it. They came because of you, because of your friendship with them. But now they are becoming interested in hearing. They also transcend the path of birth and death if they remain interested. So powerful. Krishna does not discriminate. How did you come? What Krishna looks at is, now that you have come, welcome. I remember when I was getting initiated, my Guru Maharaj gave the lecture in the temple and he said, Utsava. Utsava is a celebration. If somebody comes to Krishna, festival of Krishna, Janmashtami, somebody is going, it's a Utsava, it's a celebration. But when a soul goes to Krishna out of its voluntary free will, then that event is called as Mahotsava, great celebration. So we have to have that Mahotsava in our life, okay? This particular life, make sure you have that Mahotsava. So Chifa Bhartas, whatever you see in existence, both moving and unmoving, is only the combination of field of activities and the knower of field. That's it. So anything that we are seeing in this particular version, no matter what, like one Mataji was talking about her colleagues being an atheist but very good doctors. Well, nothing but Krishna is saying is just a combination of field and the knower of the field. There's nothing beyond that. Okay, samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtaham parameshwaram vinashyatsva avinashantam ya pashyati sa pashyati. One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies and who understands that neither soul nor the super soul is ever destroyed actually sees. So one who can see that it's a very high level of devotion, but one who sees the soul and super soul in the body of another living entity and not the body, not the mind, not the external behavior, that person is the actual seer. Yaha pashyati sa pashyati. That person is seeing. Everyone else is just seeing their own perversion in another person. We don't actually see the person. We don't hear anybody. What we see or hear is what we want to see and what we want to hear. So we actually don't know how to see and we actually don't know how to hear. Even though we have these sense organs, we still don't know. That is why Krishna is teaching. Look at the real thing in another human being or living entity. Okay, so one who sees the super soul in every living being and equal everywhere does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches a transcendental destination. So one who is really seeing Krishna in the heart of living entity, even if you theoretically see, Krishna in the heart of every living entity, they will never use their mind to degrade themselves. They don't have to go for a reformation class, or what is it called as interventions, anger management, or that's fine if someone has to go. I'm not criticizing. Please don't take it like that. But a person who is a sincere devotee, which is very rare, because Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kashit Yatiti Siddhaya, very, very rare. But if it is there, like we have Srila Prabhupada, right? The Srila Prabhupada, the devotee, like pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, will never use their mind to degrade themselves or degrade anyone else around them. They will never do that. And they will approach Krishna. One who sees that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that self does nothing, actually sees. The soul is doing nothing in this material world. It's still in slumber. The body is working with the mind, intelligence, and false ego with the use of senses and sense organs. But the soul is actually not working. That is why chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra is a wake-up call for the soul. Whoever is chanting is actually experiencing happiness everywhere across the world. How is it happening? The same effect to every single person who is chanting sincerely? Yes, because every soul is happy. When we chant Hare Krishna, the soul becomes happy and then we become happy with that. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, although it is situated in that body. So the example given is that the sky, let's say I'm sitting in my garden, and let's say the nice fragrant smell of rose is coming. So I immediately understand that the wind that is passing by me has passed through a rose garden nearby and is carrying the aroma of the roses. Right? We can say that. Or doesn't it happen to you that one day you come home and your family has cooked a very nice meal and it smells, what's there to eat today? Right? That aroma is there, that the air is filled with that aroma. But after some time, the sky or the air which is passing by me is going to lose that fragrance because the sky or the air is not mixing with that fragrance. It is just carrying it. Similarly, the soul is sitting in the body, but it is not mixing with it. Another example is, let's say that I have a car and I enter the car as a driver and I go around driving the car. Okay, but ultimately I have to get out of that car. I don't mix with the car. Just because I'm driving the car doesn't mean that I become one with the car. I remain a separate driver and car remains a separate thing. Like that, the soul is driving the body here and there, but at the end it comes out. It has nothing to do with it. Like I have nothing to do with this car other than using it to go here and there. Like that, soul has nothing to do. Although it is situated in the body, it does not mix with the body. That's what it means. It does not mix with the muscle or bone or blood or bile or mucus or different kinds of cells. No, no, no. Soul remains separate as much as the driver of the car remains separate from the car, even though inside that car. O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. So consciousness is the symptom of a soul. We understand that that this particular person is still living by the symptom of the presence of the soul. You know, there is temperature, there is heart rate, there is heartbeat, there is blood pressure we can monitor, there is pain sensation. These are all consciousness is a symptom of the presence of the soul. A dead body has these eyes, has the nose, has the lips, has the ears or tongue, has hands, but the effect of these senses are absent. Why? Because the particle that was making it alive is now gone. So body is not conscious. Body looks conscious. It looks living. Why? Because there's soul inside. Such a deep knowledge no university is teaching. Prabhupada was giving lecture in MIT Boston. You can hear that lecture. It's very famous. It's available. That there's so many institutes all across the world teaching how to make and break stuff. But who is teaching the science of soul? Who is teaching it? And what is the need? The need is great. So one who knowingly sees this difference between the body and the owner of the body can understand the process of liberation from this bondage, also attains to the supreme goal. So we have to knowingly make an effort to know the difference between me and my body. Body and the owner of the body can understand the process of liberation from this bondage and also attains to the supreme goal. Okay, so very heavy overview, I understand, but now I will summarize. So Arjuna asked 6 questions to Krishna in verse 1 of this chapter. Etad veditam ichhami. This is my desire, Krishna. I want to know. Okay, what are the questions? Description of Kshetra, Kshetragna and Jnana. So these are the first 3 questions. What is Kshetra? Kshetra is a field of activity or the body. What is Kshetragna? Kshetragna is a knower of the field of activity. How many Kshetragnas are there? 2. Soul and super soul. What is Jnana? Knowing this relationship between Kshetra and Kshetragna, which Krishna explains in 2nd to 7th verse. Kshetragnam cha api mam vidhi. Then process of acquiring knowledge. How do I know this? 8 to 12. Mai cha ananya yogena. But different people have different ways of acquiring knowledge. One wants to acquire knowledge by meditation, another one by acquiring by philosophical search, and another one by working without attachment. So those are different aspects of acquiring knowledge. Gyanam, what is Gyanam? Arjuna asked Krishna. Gyanam means object of knowledge. So Krishna explains in 13 to 19 verse, Sarvata Pani Padam Tat. What is Prakriti, what is Purusha, and what is the union? So what is Prakriti and Purusha are the last 2 questions. So Prakriti is material nature, Purusha is the enjoyer of the material nature. And what is the interaction between the two? Is explained in verse 20 to 26. Karanam Guna Sangha Asya. Prakriti is catering to the demands of a living entity under the supervision of Purusha or Krishna. Purusha, only Purusha is Krishna, in literal sense, because Purusha means enjoyer, and only enjoyer is Krishna. We cannot enjoy anything independent of Krishna. Krishna enjoys, so we enjoy. Prabhupada gives example of a mirror image. If I am decorating myself, then my mirror image is also decorated, because the person is decorated. Like that, when we serve Krishna, we become happy because we are in the image of Krishna. What is the vision of knowledge? One who understands this. 27 to 35 verse. Kshetra Kshetragnur evam antaram jnana chakshusha. One who understands knowingly. What is Kshetra, what is Kshetragna, what is Gyanam, what is Prakriti, what is Purusha, and what is the interaction between Prakriti and Purusha is the vision of knowledge. Okay. So heavy chapter. Thank you for tolerating and being so patient. Let me see if I have. Oh, Seema Mataji, I think you are logged in through my account, so I cannot check my poll. I think it's fine. Let me see if I can show Prabhupada's video on, 1 second, on transmigration of the soul. This is one lecture Prabhupada gave about how the soul transmigrates. And I'm going to show you this. I am sorry. Okay, I'm bringing it up now. You can watch Prabhupada explaining.
In future, you exist, the body changes. Is it not clear?
That's clear.
Okay. So therefore, the conclusion that when he not have this body, he will have another body. You are sitting here. If you don't sit here, you go. That does not mean you are sitting, opportunity is lost. You are sitting here, you sit somewhere. Similarly, the change of body is going on. Therefore, the conclusion is that after you give up this body, you will have another body. as you have already done. What is the difficulty to understand?
The seeming difficulty is that while the body is different from that of a boy,
The body must be different, therefore that is called change of body. Unless it is a different body, where is the change?
the memory is there, the boy, and or the spirit is there.
The memory, sometimes we may not remember, just like this child, he may not have memory when he was very small, but you have got memory. When he was a small child, you are doing something, or he was playing with some cats and dogs, but he does not remember that. But you remember it. So, simply because he has forgotten, does that mean that the incidences were not present? So this argument is not very strong because I cannot remember. You do not remember so many things. But the fact is this, that you are changing from this body to this body to this body. Therefore the conclusion should be, after this body I will accept another body. And that's a fact. As you have accepted in this life from one body to another body, there is a process how to accept it. Similarly, under the same process, you accept another body when this body is no longer useful. Just like at night, you give up this body, you take your subtle body and you go somewhere. You are sleeping in your room, but you are working in a different place. Don't you do that? So, because this body is still useful, therefore you come to back again this body, and in the morning you wake up with this body. So death means when this body is useless, you do not come to this body, you accept another body. This is called death. That subtle body takes you from this body to the womb of another mother by nature's direction, that this soul shall get this kind of body. So the soul is entered in the womb of another mother's body, and then the body is prepared by the mother's blood and flesh, and when the body is sufficiently capable of working itself, then it comes again and begins its work. This is birth and death. The soul is eternal. Therefore, a sober man should think, why should I change my body? Why this trouble I shall take? That is human sense. If I am eternal, why not my eternal body? Eternal existence, why shall I die? This is human sense. Unless one comes to this understanding, is animal. Because animal, by nature's law, is going on. He does not know. Then a human form of body, when he understands that I will have to change this body I'll have to get another body, then the question is what kind of body I shall get. That is human intelligence. By nature's way, we are getting body, but that is on the selection of the nature according to my work. If I work like animal, I get animal body. If I work as demigod, I get demigod body. If I act as trees, then you get tree body. If you acted like dog, you get dog's body. Nature's way. Therefore you find so many varieties of body. This philosophy does not appeal.
Okay, so the process of birth and death, explained by Srila Prabhupada. Okay, we can take up some questions. I will make breakout rooms. So Rupa Mataji and Sita Mataji, I'll bring you back in 10 minutes. Okay?
Sure, Mataji.
Okay, so all can join. It was a little hectic chapter, right? But you have gone through it. Okay, whoever is staying in the main room, if you have a question. Neeti Mataji, your hand is raised for a long time. Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, I want to ask. You say Krishna is in every, the super soul is everywhere. How does it work for terrorists then when they do so much harm to others?
Mataji, that question is already answered. So, Upadrishta Anumanta, we have to voluntarily become ready to have Krishna in our life. Krishna is not causing anyone to act. Krishna is not assuming anyone's sinful or pious activities. Neither is Krishna himself getting affected by anyone. Krishna is just acting as an overseer and a permitter. Okay, they want to do it, and they will do some action. Then they have to suffer the reaction also. Krishna is just permitting, just do it. Okay. But once those people also, when they become ready to surrender to Krishna, Krishna will give that intelligence also. He's not making anyone terrorist or not terrorist. Terrorist means just absence of love of God. That's it.
Okay, we see it so simple.
It is simple. Spirituality means simple. Spirit means light. It's not jugglery of words. And that's what Krishna said in this chapter also, right? Upadrishta Anumanta.
Mm.
He did not say that I am causing a terrorist to think and I'm giving him the intelligence to. No, Krishna has given intelligence to do both the things. Now it's up to us how we use it. Okay, one is using a fire to cook in the house. Another person is using a fire to burn someone else's house. Fire is fire. Now we have to use our intelligence to use it.
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much. You really simplified this complicated chapter. I used to struggle with it. You made it very simple. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. I hope you are able to understand when you go back now. Palash Prabhu, Hare Krishna, you can unmute. Palash Prabhu.
Hello.
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare
So
Krishna.
my question is, what is the difference between Lord Narayan and Lord Krishna? Are they both the same? Like some people say that Lord Brahma originated from the navel of Lord Narayana, and some say that he originated from the navel of Krishna. Like, and then what's the difference between these two names?
In the literal sense, there is no difference. Like you have a family, so you're a family person in your house, right?
Yes.
But when you go outside and interact with people, then you have a different way of interacting with people. You're not interacting with the same closeness as you do with your family members, but you're the same person.
Okay.
So Krishna, when he is working in different places, he's interacting. Where is this quality of different interaction coming inside us? It's coming from Krishna because Krishna is doing it. The Narayan feature is Krishna is creating. Vishnu, sorry, not Narayan, Vishnu feature. Krishna is creating, right? Vishnu has a work of creating Brahma, and then Brahma is a secondary creator, and Vishnu maintains, right? Working. So when Krishna has to work, he assumes the form of Vishnu, or Krishna in office is Vishnu. And it's not Narayan, it's Vishnu. Garbhadaksha Vishnu is a expansion of Krishna through which Brahma comes out. This is all explained in first canto, third chapter of Bhagavatam. I'm going to show you. You can go back and read that chapter. So you're looking at my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you go to this vedabase.io, go to Srimad Bhagavatam, go to first canto, go to third chapter. Krishna is the source of all incarnation. So whatever I'm saying is explained here. Okay. So in the literal sense,
Okay.
there is no difference.
Okay. So I have another question.
Mhm.
Like Krishna is a bit, I just felt before joining this class, just felt that he's a bit egotistic. Like he says that I am the God and like that. And why does he says like that?
I think this question was already answered in 10th chapter, where Krishna said, I am the creator of everything. I know everyone, but for me knows no one. There is nobody who really knows Krishna as Krishna is. Unless and until he talks about himself, there is nobody else who will talk for himself. So he has to assume that position of speaking about himself, his opulences, his vibhutis, for our benefit. For example, I will tell you, Mataji, I am MD in pediatrics. Mataji, I went to New York to did my MD. Mataji, I work in a very big hospital in America. So you can say, oh, this lady is so proud, but I'm not proud. I'm just quoting facts about my life to you. You are taking it as proud because of our own contamination of the heart, but it's not proud. It's a fact. Krishna talks about himself because Krishna is God. He's quoting a fact. I am God. Come to me. He's quoting it because he wants us. And we get attracted by opulences. So, okay, you get attracted by opulences. See, I have all that. Why don't you come to me?
Okay.
Okay, it's not coming from the background. I am taking it as a proud because my heart is contaminated, not Krishna.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mataji, Hare Krishna. Srinidhi, Mataji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, my question was, you said there are various species on this earth. So evolution took place because of desire. Is that what Mataji have you said?
Desire to enjoy, different desires. Yeah.
So the first form of life, how did it originate from some form of desire?
Well, we were made by Krishna for him to enjoy us, but we wanted to enjoy independent of him. So first form, okay, I'll give you one example. Prabhupada was in Los Angeles. He was on the beach for morning walk. Okay, he saw some people surfing. People surfing on the tides,
Yes,
sea
ma'am.
beach. So he saw them. He said, you heard this lecture. He said, you say it's surfers, I see them sufferers. Why sufferers? Why is not surfer? Why? Because now Karanam Guna Sangasya Sadasha Janma Yonishu. They're associating with the mode of nature and developing a kind of desire that I want to enjoy life like this. So Paramatma is noticing now next life they'll have to become a fish and go on surfing or suffering. So depending on what desire I had, I got that body first. But Mataji, for your reference, you can go to 8th chapter, verse number 3, I think. We can go and see how a living entity came about in earth. 8th chapter, I think it's verse 3 or 5. Let's see. In the purport, Prabhupada explains. Vedic literature, entity is called Jivatma. Brahman is never called Param Brahma, identifies himself. According to his identification with the material or spiritual nature, he receives a material spiritual body. In material nature, he can take a body anywhere from 8,400,000 billion, 84 million species of life. But in spiritual nature, he has only one body. In material nature, he is manifested sometimes as a man, demigod, animal, beast, bird, etc. according to his karma. To attain material heavenly planets and enjoy their facilities, he sometimes performs sacrifices, but his merit is exhausted, returns to this earth in the form of man. This process is called karma. So, sacrifice, when the merit is exhausted, comes to earth. Mataji, read here. This one, it is third. Please read this. When the merit of sacrifice is exhausted.
When the merit of sacrifice is exhausted, the living entity descends to earth in the form of rain, then takes on the form of grains, and the grains are eaten by man and transformed into semen, which impregnates a woman. And thus the living entity once again attains the human form to perform sacrifice, and so repeat the same cycle. In this way, the living entity perpetually comes and goes on the material path. The Krishna conscious person, however, avoids such sacrifices. He takes directly to Krishna consciousness and thereby prepares himself to return to Godhead.
Okay, so
Okay.
if this answers your question partially.
Yes. Thank you, Mataji.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Yes, Uday Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Then Sanjay Gupta, Prabhu.
You said the soul is the only knower of the field, I mean the body. So, and
There are two
this soul,
knowers. Two knowers. One of the knower is soul.
one is soul and the super soul. I'm talking about just the soul. So in one place where you're saying the soul, one knows only the body of it, wherever it is embodied into. But at the same time, when a sensible man ceases to see different entities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded. So there is one place where it tells the soul can only see its body as a knower. In other place it tells that as a soul, even I can see the other's soul or others. For example, if you look at the sages, they're able to tell what
That's
I mean.
Brahmabhuta platform. You're talking about Brahmabhuta platform. Brahmabhuta prasannatmana sochati na kangshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakte labate param. That platform, Uttamadhikari devotee can see the presence of super soul in every living entity and does not degrade himself with the mind. That's a Brahmabhuta platform. But in general, it's a very rare. In general, I am only aware of the pains and pleasures of my own body. I have no idea about your body. And you have no idea about what's going on in my body, right?
Not necessarily. That's what I'm trying to say. The knower, at times of due to whatever jnana drishti they call, they are able to tell what is happening in your body as well. And as people say, the yoga is all one. So everyone is kind of interconnected. So one who realizes even can understand what is happening on the other side. And some famous example being the multi-personality. We can see the news which says suddenly a 6-year-old child talks like a very old lady. Probably something is connected. They are able to actually put a piano with the music of a maestro. So that
You're
particular
mixing up a couple of things here. If I
not
may
couple.
please edit.
The intention is that the soul need not know only its body. Somewhere else also the soul seems to be acquiring either the knowledge or the soul also can see beyond the body as well. That's what I'm saying. The examples is what I'm saying.
You're mixing up spirit and matter. So when Krishna says that Brahmabhuta platform or Uttamadhikari devotee can see a soul and super soul in another person's body, and that vision is ya pashyati sa pashyati. That vision is the real knowledge. That is a spiritual platform. Srila Prabhupada saw the soul inside the body. He did not see the designation. He did not see the skin coming from America or Europe or family of a meat eater or family of a drug addict. He did not see all that. Srila Prabhupada saw the soul inside the body and worked with that soul aspect, right? He worked with that. He harnessed that quality of a living entity. Okay, so that is a vision of a Brahmabhuta. Now you're talking about somebody doing some knowledge about piano or whatever, that is a knowledge of that is a memory of the mind from some lifetime, but that is also in the material realm. That is not the knowledge about the body. That's a memory of the mind in some lifetime. Okay, and now when Krishna, we have to understand and simplify. We can go on complicating, but we'll not get anywhere. If we go on complicating and make a whirlpool for our own self, we'll not get to Krishna. But the aim is to get to Krishna, and spirit means light. It means no jugglery of bird, no vakuchakarya. Prabhupada has forbidden. Simple. See, if you read Srila Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada has made this Vedic knowledge as a baby food. You know how a baby starts eating food? They cannot eat chapati, dosa, idli. They eat a mashed food, right? Mashed. Easy to digest, don't even have to chew. Like that, Prabhupada has made the Vedic knowledge for us easy to digest. Even a common person should be able to understand what we are saying. That is the explanation of Vedic knowledge, not jugglery. So that other aspect that you were saying is the knowledge of the mind, a memory of the mind from some lifespan. But that has nothing to do with Krishna, and that has nothing to do with the super soul. But Krishna is saying, Ya Pashyati Sapashyati, is that particular living entity is able to see the soul inside the other person, not the body. That's
Okay.
a different platform.
So Swami Prabhupada is able to see soul in other bodies as well. So that is
Yes.
what is. So of course, so that means obviously the soul need not actually only see the body where it is present. It can also see when they attain whatever transcendental. Is it what I'm to see? And that's called Brahma Bhuta.
I am not saying at times. It is all the time. Okay, there are 3 levels of devotees. Prabhu, go to 11th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, verse number 45, 46, 47. 11th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 45, 46, 47. Different levels of devotees are described. Not that everyone who is chanting Hare Krishna are on the same level. No. There is Kanishta Adhikari or neophyte devotee. And then there is Madhyam Adhikari or a person in the middle who sees 4 things. Madhyam Adhikari sees 4 things. He sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He sees the devotees of the Lord. Also sees the innocent people who are naive and want to become devotees, and also sees the envious people. So sees 4 things. That's Madhyama. Uttama Adhikari sees nothing other than soul. Yeah, Java na dekhi, taro dekhi, tari murti. Means whenever he sees Krishna. He sees the stone, he sees Krishna. He sees tree, he sees Krishna. He sees another person, he sees Krishna. That's Uttama Adhikari. Don't mix. There are 3 levels. Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama. And I gave you the reference. And Prabhupada or Krishna is talking about Ya Pashyati Sa Pashyati is Uttama Adhikari, the topmost devotee. He sees soul and super soul in that body.
Okay, Mata.
Okay.
A bit difficult to understand, but I'll probably look into the Bhagavatam content you mentioned.
Okay, and you can circle back. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Sanjay Gupta Prabhu, then Minakshi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hi Krishna.
Well, my question is that how can we experience soul and body differently amongst ourselves? I mean, how come one can know that I have a soul and a body? That is number 1. And number 2, how to nourish soul? We nourish body, but we don't nourish soul. Do we also need to give nutrients to our soul? So these are 2 questions.
Very nice question. So yes, Sita Mataji, you want to answer? How can we experience ourselves and that I am different than my body?
I will attempt, Mataji. It is a process. We have to practice, and the easiest way that it has been given to us is to keep chanting, and that will lead us to that realization that we are not the body and the soul. But it takes years and years of practice.
Well, okay, thank you, Mataji. But Prabhu, do you ever dream? Do you ever get dreams?
Yes, I get dreams and I get very bad dreams.
Well, then you have to read Krishna book in the night before you sleep. But anyway, so we get dreams, and then in the dream, sometimes somebody is running and there's a tiger chasing the person, right? And then, oh my God, and tiger is chasing, and I'm running, and tiger is chasing, and there you go, tiger grabs, and I die, right?
Yes.
But then I get up, and I'm like, oh, thank God, that was a dream. So, but then you just saw yourself somewhere else. So what was that? It means that I'm different than the body. I am seeing myself somewhere else, but I am right here. So how come there is this duality? Okay, that's one way of seeing. And when you look at your hand, what do you say? What do you say when you look at your hand? What is your vocabulary? Anyone? Do you say my hand or I hand? What do you say?
I say my hand, my hand.
So my hand. So means that I am different from my hand. So who is that? Who is that my? Who's that I? It's my hand. But then whose hand? My. So what is that? What is that? What is that I factor behind that my? It's soul. We know that. We just don't. Or when I look at my photographs as a young girl, I say, oh, this is my photo, right? You say that if you look at your photograph from your childhood, you say that this is my photograph. So who is that my? It's not I. I and my are different. We know it. I when I look at someone else, then also I say that, oh, your body has changed so much. You know, if you look at someone after many years, don't you say that, oh, you have changed so much? What has changed? The body has changed. The soul hasn't changed. So we can go on, experimenting. That am I the body? Am I not the body? If I'm the body, I should have the knowledge about my body. I should have knowledge about my body, but I don't have any knowledge. I don't know how many times a day I'm blinking my eyes. I don't know how many hair is there on my head. I don't know how my eyelids look like. I can't even see my eyelid like right there without the help of a mirror. So if I don't have any knowledge about my body, how can I be the body? That's one way of understanding by logic. I'll ask Prabhu to give me a presentation about I'm not the body, I'm the soul. There are 18 reasons he presents. I'll ask Namanishti Prabhu, then I'll present tomorrow. Okay, the other portion is that if I'm the soul, then how do I work for the soul? That is a wonderful question. Yes, how do I work for the soul? By chanting Hare Krishna. Because right now I'm working for the body, aware that I'm the body, but I'm working for it, right? The body needs food. The body needs clothes. The body needs to be cleaned. The body gets thirsty, right? I'm working and I'm making food. I'm getting myself a glass of water. I'm cleaning myself. I'm putting clothes on the body. Like that, if I need to know that now I know that I'm not the body, I'm the soul, then we also need to know that what the soul wants. Like I am aware right now what my body wants. Like that, I need to become aware of my soul wants. And Jivera Swarup Hai Nitya Krishna Das. The soul does not know anything other than Krishna. It actually does not know anything other than Krishna. It is unaware and oblivious to everything else. So if you give the soul the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, that's what the soul wants. So give it. Okay, you can chant Hare Krishna and then you will feel an experience. Yes, Annu Mataji, what do you want to add on your punchline?
Actually, I had one more question.
No, Mataji, I just want to add that we are a body, and we are a body because if we don't take care of our body will deteriorate. We don't clean it, we don't do it. Same way, now that we realize we are so we have to, it is high time we start feeding our soul and growing our soul by chanting. This is what I have learned through the passage of time, associating with Krishna consciousness. Now that till date we did not know, all right, to say, yes, I'm a body, I'm a soul, okay, all those things. Now that we have realized, I think we all should start chanting and start our soul.
Right. Thank you, Mataji. Yes, Sanjay Gupta Prabhu, you had another question?
Well, there are a lot of things which were there in Shloka 8 to 12, like,
yes, 20 qualities.
like humbleness and so forth. But there's one thing that is about your, entanglement with the family and children.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is possible, but, that is not possible. You remain very, attached to children and family.
That is why before giving that, Prabhu, all the qualities are in order. Shastras don't arrange anything randomly. Okay, so
Okay.
before getting this no entanglement, one has to cultivate the perception of evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, and also develop detachment. Then comes no
Okay.
entanglement. Don't go directly to
Okay.
this.
Thank you.
We have to go through this first.
Okay. Thank you,
But
Mataji.
but if your
Understood.
family is congenial and cordial to develop Krishna consciousness, they are also devotees. Then there is no need to leave anybody. We can actually increase the family in that case. Okay,
Right.
it depends.
Thank you. I think finally, like there are medical doctors, they should also be soul doctors to tell you what your soul wants. Where are you lacking?
We have soul doctors. Srila Prabhupada is an expert.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hare Krishna. Meenakshi Mataji, I've been asking you to unmute. You can unmute. You have a question?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, Mataji, I can hear.
So Mataji, you mentioned that God stays in everyone's heart as super soul, right? So I have question around that. Like when we do something bad, which we should not do we get guidance from God, being he's looking at us every time, right? So if he guide us that don't do this, this is bad, do this is good for you. Like parents guide their children, like this is right, this is wrong. So same way, being God as our parents, he also must be guiding us, right? Especially to stop us doing something wrongs. If he guides, first question is, does he guide? Second question is, like, if he guides, how can we identify, like, this is a signal from him that guide us to go in the right direction. I know scriptures are there in which he has given us the knowledge. We should look into that, and we should try to gain the knowledge. But practically, apart from people who look into the scriptures, how we get the guidance from God? How sometimes this question comes to me many times, like, how can I see my super soul sitting inside me? How to interact?
Mataji, do you get sometimes this signal from your heart that we should not do this?
Yes, many times. Like when we say that my conscience does not allow me to do.
Yeah, or somebody is going to do something wrong to someone, then they do get the voice in their heart that don't do it. That actually comes from Paramatma guiding. That's one. But then externally, he's giving scriptures and acharyas and saintly people, sending it to our lives to help us guide all the time. But how do we hear it? That is a bigger area for us. The guidance is there. The guidance is always there. In any circumstances, it is there. But the problem is that we are weak to hear and follow. We do it anyway, right? Because we are not ready. We then, by chanting Hare Krishna, one becomes determined. Hridavrita, Vyavasatmika buddhi. One cultivates that determination that yes, I want to hear Krishna. Now I want to hear and also act on it. Krishna is guiding all the time. Now Krishna is telling here, right? Chant Hare Krishna, surrender unto me, you belong to me. The guidance is there. Now the most intelligent person will take up this guidance and act on it. The others may not.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. Smita Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. I have the same, continuing the subject. Now, when you had told the story about the Krishna helping that man who was in a river was flooding, and he ultimately, till the helicopter came, he couldn't take Krishna, and he was chanting.
He
So,
still did
like,
not take. He still did not take. He died.
he died. And then Krishna told him, because I had given you hand so many times, but he didn't accept it. So in this life, we also may be facing the same problem. Certain times Krishna must be around us to help us. Our conscience must be telling. But still we keep on doing something wrong, which unawarely, naturally, intentionally we will not do. But when that guidance is not coming or computerizing in our brain that you have to do this way, we may keep on doing wrong things. That is why I suddenly felt with this. Because now when I do the Japa Mala, I can 10 minutes, I just can't think of anything because you are hearing the Jap. In 10 minutes, one Mala is done. Sometimes I do uncounted. I just keep on counting not counting, just doing the japa till I get the tribe.
Mm.
That time your mind is definitely cooler and you can't think of anything because you are hearing the japa yourself.
Mm.
But sometimes you are keeping on thinking of the world and nothing unwanted. I don't know whether we are doing something wrong or
No, so we have to cultivate. Abhyasena yogena. It is, Krishna says that, right? You have to cultivate. You have to practice and practice with determination and cultivate. It will happen. Chanting is a skill.
yeah.
We have to master it. And you're doing it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mataji, Krishna sends guidance. There's no one, we cannot live without Krishna. You know why Paramatma comes with the soul? Why Krishna does not send just the soul to the material world? Why he comes along with it?
To guide you. He's guiding you in each life till you get the Krishna consciousness.
Till I'm ready to hear him now, what he has to say. So far I'm telling him what I want, but now I have to sit down and listen, what do you want? Okay. So chanting is a skill you can go on doing and attentively and pray before chanting. Okay, there's this question in the chat. Oh, Rupa Mataji, Sita Mataji, any question left unanswered?
We answered all the questions. No, Mataji.
Okay, thank you. So does our soul only retain the Krishna consciousness we acquire our lives on earth? I'm not clear with the question. Neetu Mataji, are you here? You can unmute Mataji. Was it in context with something that I was speaking at the time? Mataji, I'm not clear with your question. You're writing, so does our soul only retain the Krishna consciousness we acquire in our lives on earth?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hi Krishna. I'm just gonna be back. Okay, 1 second. Okay, Krishna. Yes, Mataji. Oh, you're muted. You can unmute, Mataji. Neetu Mataji, you can unmute.
Hello.
Yes, hi Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Mataji, you mentioned that the soul only knows Krishna. So, how is our karma in the current life determine the soul's destination in the next life?
Come again. What is the last part? The destination in the next life?
Yeah. So if our soul only knows about Krishna and retains memories only about Krishna, how is, if we have a next life, how is the karma of our current life determine the, destination of the soul within me?
Mataji, you have, so the soul in its constitutional position knows nothing but Krishna. But then in a conditional state, now we are in a condition. I'm conditioned by my body, conditioned by my circumstances. So in a conditional state, one does activity. Karma definition we studied in 8th chapter. We studied the definition of karma over there. Please go back and read again. Prabhupada explains definition of karma is activity which leads to another material body. That is karma. Okay, it has nothing to do with the soul. For example, that karma, let's say that I am very charitably disposed. I have a very big heart and I give so much charity, so much food and so many things. But I'm not doing it for Krishna. I'm just doing it because out of the goodness of my heart. That is karma. Because that is going to give me another body, which will be in the heavenly planets where I will be able to enjoy the heavenly delights. That is karma. Akarma is something which is the function of the soul. Function of the soul is akarma. Working in such a manner that I don't get another material body. And that is the definition of devotional service. And that is the secret. People look for secrets. This is a secret.
Okay.
Work in such a way that you don't get another material body.
Okay. So which means whatever we do, whatever good things or bad things we do without, realizing of Krishna, without realization of Krishna, will have a karma associated, right?
Will have an effect, good or
Will
bad.
have
Yeah.
an effect. Okay, okay. So even the good things will not, the good things we do in our life will not help us reach Krishna. We might reach the heavenly planets, but
Yes,
not to the Goloka.
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So morality and immorality, I was talking about it. I think morning class, 6:30 a.m. Morality and immorality. So we confuse morality, immorality, and spirituality, but there is no confusion. For example, I will give you an example that we have example of Arjuna. So Arjuna is going to fight now, right? Arjuna is going to, at the end, we know he's going to fight and he's going to kill his grandfather. So a grandchild killing a grandfather, is that moral? Mataji, you're still unmuted. You can still talk to me. Is that moral?
Yeah, the intention behind it
No,
might
no,
be
just
okay.
answer yes or no. Just say, don't complicate. Is that moral?
No.
Okay, I'll give you another example. Prahlad Maharaj. So Hiranyakashipu came to kill the father of Prahlad Maharaj. In front of him, he killed his father. Hiranyakashipu was killed by Narasimha Dev in front of Prahlad Maharaj. Okay, and Prahlad Maharaj is standing with a flower garland. Very nice, you killed my father. Is that moral? Yes or no? I'm not taking you as a target. Anyone can answer, even my admins can answer. Make her feel light. Yes or no?
It's moral in that particular story. Yes, it's right.
It's not right नहीं, wrong नहीं. Moral की बात हो रही है. Morality and immorality.